Firstly, thank you, Geoff, again, for coming on to the podcast. Really, really do appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. And you know what I wanted to say before I started, when I do these kind of things, I always get, I never know, people will say to me, I'm looking forward to seeing what you say today or what you teach. And I said, yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, because I don't know myself. And often when I'm on the way down, I'm informed. And I was listening to Radio 2 when I was coming down, and they got a thought of the day. And there was the girl on there was talking about her father who died, and who had a great presence and left his words, and they're living. These words are living. And she's talked about the electronic technology and how once you've spoken into a podcast, or once you've written a book, or even if you've just spoken to somebody, that thought, once you've released it, it lives, and it goes on. It has a life of its own. She didn't say it like I would, as I would kind of articulate it. She just said, she called it electronic technology, that when you put a word out there, that word lives and it goes on. And maybe this morning or tomorrow, or maybe in 100 years' time, after we've gone, someone might wake up at 4 a.m. in a cold sweat and think, I can't go on. And he might access this online or through a random book, or pick up a book in a car boot sale or something, and you'll find these words, and they may act as intercessory words, and they may heal him on the spot, or they may just give him an hour of grace, or they may just give him an idea or a direction or some hope. So the reason this is, when I came in, you said how grateful you were, but I'm grateful as well, because this is my chance to put those words out there. Once they're out there, they are living, and they're not my words. Taylor, who's filming this for us, said that people bring makeup artists and they bring all sorts of different things when they do podcasts. I just bring the Holy Spirit. I ask the Holy Spirit. I invite the Holy Spirit and trust that He'll come through and be my advocate. So I like the idea that what we're saying today will go out, and it's not like, it's just like we talk about vibrations and sound waves. It's actually spirit. I mean, you can call it different things, pneuma, spirit, or kotodama gakko, the use of sound. But really, there's a spirit in it. It's made of atoms, the same as we are, and inside these atoms are clouds of electrons, and each of these negatively charged particles contains an aeon, which Jean-Emile Chiron, the French Einstein, called it a phase of God. It's not like it's just a quantum particle. It's a phase of God. So when we speak and when we write, and when we stop and have 5 minutes with somebody, a rough sleeper, or somebody that's struggling, or somebody that's troubled, if we allow this spirit to come through, this spirit of kindness to come through us, it will. This phase of God will go from us to somebody else. So if they feel inspired by what we do or by what we say, then the Spirit has infused them.
In spirit.
Yeah, so in spirit. Yeah. So the Spirit goes into them. And then they'll pass it on. And then it develops what they call, it becomes entropic. Negentropic. Negentropic basically just means the more knowledge and love that we put out there, the more organised things become. People are in pain and suffering because they are conflicted, they're broken, they're damaged, they're not organised. So if we can use words to help to organise them, then this negentropy is when things waste and perish. But if you can infuse kindness and intention and love into what you do, then it will increase the negentropy, and things will become more ordered, and they will head closer towards their own omega point, that point of completeness, So I like the idea that that's what we're doing. Every time I do this, I am very aware that what I'm saying will go out there as a thought form, a semi-autonomous thought form, and it will work, and it will land in someone's life. And we know it does, because we've spoken to people, haven't we?
Absolutely.
You said a great story at the beginning, how you came to watch a play of mine.
Yeah, Fragile.
And you
That was the first
felt
time.
you felt something,
Oh,
and you felt something, and we met afterwards. And I don't remember this because that was the first time we met. But there was a feeling that we would meet again,
yeah.
and that we would do things together. So I like that. That's the idea that whatever I said to you on that day, or whatever you said to me, has stayed. Then you end up. Then you end up going. You were telling me you ended up going to a course that you didn't know why you was there. And on the course they said, "We're doing a Geoff Thompson writers course," and you said, "That's why I'm here."
Yeah.
Then
I knew I had to go for some reason.
Then you end up on my writers course,
which was incredible.
And then we've.
And same with that day where you walked in. Everything is. There's so many things that are really vivid. And when you walked in and you sat down, you got BAFTA out, and when you started sharing your story and your journey, and then about how it affected you mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
And I remember the first thing you said to us as a practice, write down something you've never shared.
Yeah. Powerful, isn't it?
I wanted to run out the door.
Yeah.
Suddenly I became hot and sweaty and clammy. And I thought, oh my God,
It's interesting as well. You said we lost a lot of people on the course, but that's why.
There was quite a few there. It was a big round of us.
We lost
I think
people
because 7 at the end.
I think it was, it's because we were asking people, because it's no good me just, I don't want to just sit and work with people and get them to write prose that doesn't mean anything. I want them to,
share their soul.
I want them to individuate whatever is blocked, whatever's in them that's evil in the Thomistic sense of privation, something that lacks wholeness, something that lacks completeness. I want them to share that, put it onto the page, bring it to light, because what we bring to the light itself becomes a light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So your story, because of what you've been through, and my story, what I've become through, was a darkness.
It was, yeah.
But when we share it, it becomes a light, because other people go, God, if he can share that, if she can share that, I can share my story. Because we're only, as they say in AA, we're only as sick as our secrets, aren't we? So I like the idea that, the Holy Spirit is speaking to you and saying, go to this play. And the play was Fragile. And Fragile was a traumatic play. It was like an individuation. It was like an exorcism on stage, where I brought up all of my fears and all of the things that blackmailed me, all of the parasites that clung to me from an abuse I had when I was a kid. And I put it in front of an audience, and the audience over 3 weeks, well, over a few years, because the play travelled, helped me to clean that trauma. But I like the idea that the Spirit spoke to you and said, come to this. It might not make much sense, but in 3 or 4 meetings' time, you'll meet somebody, and then it will make sense. And maybe in 10 years' time, you'll do a podcast with this person. But you could never imagine that far down the line.
No,
you just follow the
all.
feeling, don't you?
Absolutely. And I feel I'm grateful to my past self for listening to that inner guidance, because, and I know you understand this all too well, on my journey, the shadows and all the stuff that I was carrying, the guilt, the shame, the unworthiness, the massive lack, the void, all those areas that needed light shining into it.
Yeah.
And bringing out into a place and loving. It's been a long, long journey. I'm still always, every day, still working, still cleaning stuff out. And I know you're very much about that as well.
Well, we can't help people if we're not helping ourselves.
If we're not doing the work, absolutely.
Yeah, because otherwise it's clean water coming through a dirty hose. And it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, because we're not. No. But it means that we have to be congruent. So you have to say, look, I'm still struggling with this. I'm still struggling with whatever it is, the drink, the drugs, the porn. I'm working on this. It's when we're not aware of it. Yeah. It's when the negative part of us encourages the and hides the stuff that we shouldn't be doing. For me, I want to be a receptacle for God. I want to be receptacle for His Spirit, and to do that and to access that to the best of my ability, I need to be clean. Yeah. I need to be congruent. I need to be a unitary being. In other words, my thinking, saying and doing need to be righteously aligned. Mm-hmm. When I say righteously, I just mean they need to be aligned to wisdom and love. So if I've got areas in my life which are rebellious to that, they've got to go. Even if I'm the same as you. It's taken me years and years and years to work on removing some of the parasitical thought forms that have been in me. And he brought me to it gradually. He hasn't made me get rid of it all at once, because it would have, I wouldn't have coped. So it's gone in like rounds of cleansing. But I'm excited about doing the work. And doing the work is very much about what we're doing now, about being honest, about sharing stuff. It's about whatever. For me, it's about, different people have got different callings, but for me, it's about getting up early in the morning, meditating when the thin space is there, writing, studying, and doing the things that are very difficult to do. Controlling my palate so my food body's under control, controlling my breath so that I'm getting enough prana from my breath, so I'm not just like chest breathing, controlling my mind and intellect so that I can accommodate the new information that's coming in, because it can be quite bewildering, and also controlling my will. I need to have a strong will. I need to have autonomy. The will force, or they call it the causal body or the bliss body, is the closest body to the soul. And that's what creates causation in the world. And if we haven't got control of our causal will, this energy that comes through is hijacked as soon as it arrives, and it's pushed out into the world as a dark spirit, which doesn't serve God, doesn't serve us. So he stops giving us abundance. I want abundance. So if I want abundance, I need to recognize myself as an escrow account, as somebody that receives just in order to give. It's not mine to receive and then I'll pilfer a little bit off and I'll snaffle a bit away here, and I'll go and get pissed at the weekend because I need a break, or I'll look at a bit of porn because it's only natural. That just poisons and pollutes and consumes it in a negative way. So this is what I've been called to do. It's saying you're calling for more, but you need to make room for more. And you need to make sure that if you want to invite the king into your house, it needs to be impeccable. And that doesn't mean we need to be impeccable today, or that, in fact, that we ever will be, because I'm the same as everybody else. I trip up all the time. But I catch myself quicker and quicker. It's too painful to fall out of alignment because I separate myself from God. So the call is to impeccability. That might sound, it might sound boring to people, but it's the opposite of boring, because people see all of the extravagance in the way they live, food, drink, the sex and all of that stuff. They see it as they see that as the fun, whereas they feel as though they're being asked to give that up. But I don't see that. I see that when I get rid of all that stuff, I find peace. And then when I find peace, I realise I've not given anything up. I've escaped it. They're prisons for me. They were for me anyway. So the call to impeccability is important, because it's saying, when we're talking about working with spirit and working with the Holy Spirit, people get this idea that it's socks and sandals, that it's an easy ride, but it's the most difficult thing you'll ever do, because it's a tremendous energy, and it will crush us if we're not tempered in order to take it.
And respecting it.
Respecting it. Yeah. So we've got to be impeccable. I was talking to my friend recently, and he says, a guy that I was working with, a really beautiful man, and he said, nothing's happening, nothing's improving. I don't seem to be going forward. I said, because you don't want it. He said, what do you mean I don't want it? I said, you're not doing the work. I said, how many times have I told you about meditating, you're still not meditating, about palate, you're still not getting your palate right. I said, you've got issues with drink, you still haven't got that right. I said, you don't want it. I said, you don't want it. You don't want this extra. You just want to sit and complain that you're not getting extra. You want extra. Yeah. It's there for everybody. And do you know where it is, Sarah? God is in the cloud. He's in the dark cloud. God is in the thick cloud. In other words, he's in all of those areas in our life that are dark.
Yeah.
All of those areas, those addictions, those seductions, those gossips, those judgments. God is in them. Everything is made of atoms, and every atom contains trillions of electrons, and each of those electrons contain an aeon of light, a phase of God. That treasure is ours to reap. All we need to do is go, well, I've got this porn addiction. I had a porn addiction. There is treasure in there. That is a cloud of energy that contains God. You wouldn't imagine God to be in there, but he's hidden in all the places that nobody wants to look. God said to Solomon, who was the son of King David, he said, I exist temporarily in the cloud, but if you build me a temple, I'll reside permanently with you. Now, I love that, because if you look at us, we're the temple. The cloud is the negative stuff that we all keep indulging but trying to avoid. We want to gossip, but we don't realise that we're just wasting energy. We want to drink, and we don't realise that we're just polluting the energy. We're poisoning it. We want to, we want to be extravagant. We want followers. We want all of these things, but that's all egoic. And all of that contains light, and we can recover that light by going, I'm not going to watch porn anymore. By looking at what it honestly is, looking at the abuse that it is, looking at the fact that not only is it an abuse to the kids, the people, it's a colloquialism, not children, but to the kids that are on there, not only is it an abuse to them, but we become part of the abuse. We become party to the abuse because we're indulging it. And when we watch those kind of things, or when we, when we drink, or if we have too much alcohol, or if we take drugs, we are allowing parasites across the threshold. They can't cross the threshold without your consent. The moment we let them through, they're on our causal will, and our causal will is no longer ours. So God's saying to me, I'm in there. I'm in that. There is light in that. It's made that those thought forms, those beliefs, those perceptions are made of atoms. And within those atoms are aeons of light. They're all yours. When the urge rises to watch sexual porn, and forgive me for mentioning that a lot, that was just my particular penchant.
It's an important subject, actually, but I want to...
Yeah. So when that rose up, and for me to indulge in that, and for me to waste my essence on it, I just said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm breaking my covenant with this. I don't want this. I'm not going to do it. And I looked at what it was, and I looked at the truth of it. I stopped rationalising it. And then all of the light that was ensconced, or that was encased within that dark world, I converted into light. The moment it rose and I didn't indulge it, the negative part of it was liberated, and the light that was in it came across to me. The effulgence came across to me. So my consciousness expanded as my ego contracted. So we get this idea that it's... everybody has this idea that, it's like, Geoff's got rosary beads. Fucking hell, what's happened to Geoff? Geoff's gone socks and sandals. But I understand that as a reaction of fear. I understand that they don't know the power in what we do, but they don't understand also that the work is to find your own shadow, whether you look at it from a Jungian perspective or whether you look at it from a spiritual perspective, and let that shadow rise up. Excuse me. And refuse it, but just watch it, just observe it, maybe talk back to it. In demonology they call it antireticus. We talk back. No, I'm not doing that. That's an abuse. That is not me. That's not mine. That's not myself. That is not what I'm going to do. I want to invite God in. To invite God in, I can't serve two masters. I can't have a parasite and an angel together. I've got to make room. So the work is the most difficult thing I've ever done in my whole life. So I exist in the cloud temporarily. If you build me a temple, again, this is all from the Bible, but it's metaphors, I'll reside permanently in you. Now, that works whether it's from an atom or whether it's a person. If you look at an atom has a nucleus, and it's surrounded by clouds of dark particles called electrons. The nucleus, the center, the heart or the soul, is like the temple. Now, if these particles come anywhere near the center, they get frame dragged in. they get what's called electron capture. They get dragged in, the shell gets ripped off, and the light becomes part of the center.
That.
I know. So that's particle physics.
Beautiful.
It's exactly what we do. So when this negativity approaches us and goes, yeah, go on, have a drink. Oh yeah, go on, watch that, or have a gossip. And when that comes and we don't, if it comes too close and we don't allow it, the negative shell will be ripped off, and the aeon, the light, the phase of God that it contains, will come over to us and it will expand us. So that's why people don't do it, because it's so difficult.
It is difficult, but also when you do start being more aware, just awareness, just simplifying it for people who they want to kind of start moving forward, evolving, healing, learning how to release and let go of things. It's never pain-free. It's never pain-free, but it is a feeling, and you do feel it. For me, it's like when you are more aware, and you are more aware of what you're saying and how you're saying something and where you're putting your time, energy and attention, suddenly you feel differently.
Yeah.
And being around people that are stuck in places of darkness, like you say, the constant negative loop.
Yeah.
Or there's the addictions, sexual energy addictions.
Yeah.
You feel that. So there's your guidance straight away.
Yeah.
And just refrain and withdraw until you come away as much as you can. You can't escape it all, because
But start with
we
the small
have friends,
stuff.
we have family, we have people that we have to deal with, work with.
Well, they're our best
and
teachers.
they're all coming in. I wanted to talk to you a bit more about that, actually, Geoff, because lately I've done a lot of sexual healing with myself, especially over the last couple of years. This year's been huge. But I've had a lot of clients coming in, and they have had a lot of sexual trauma. And there has been a real theme with partners and relationships.
Yeah.
And I completely get this. So they've not been able to yet find a way to release that energy.
Yeah.
The trapped trauma energy from sexual abuse or sexual violence. And a lot of them have been, and again, I understand this all too well, with partners who they've loved, but it's been, the partner's had addictions with porn, gambling. So it's an energy force, isn't it? And it's kind of like the parasitic exchange of magnets, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the thing that worked for me with the sexual healing side, come away from the porn, started to come away from that, because obviously back in the day it was people, you just thought, well, it's kind of
Just thought it was
promoted
normal.
especially if you're in a relationship with a couple. Oh, that's it's this sort of thing. But actually, cleaning all that out and then doing intent work with sexual energy, which is life force energy.
Yeah.
And being very present, and with the breath, with the body, with the music, and working through is took me to a completely different place.
Yeah.
A different relationship with my body, with in my relationship and partnership. You can clean all these things out.
Yeah.
And people just don't know how. They're like,
Yeah.
well, how am I going to do that? What do I do? So what does an actual practice for when you are facing, how can I put it? What am I trying to express? So when someone wants to come away from alcohol, but their circle is very alcohol based.
Yeah.
Their lifestyle is, well, this is what we do. This is often. But I know there's something in me that's saying I need to come away. What does that actual practice, what can they actually start to do to simplify it?
Yeah. Well, the main thing
How
is...
will they address it and talk to it daily?
For me, it's about getting more information. So if you've got the porn thing, people think porn's okay. But if you look into it, if you do a little bit of investigation, you realise it's a demonic world. It's very dark.
Very.
It's a vast abuse of the sex energy and an abuse of the people that are involved in the industry, whether they feel they want to be there or not. And the people that watch it, it's an absolute demonic consumption. So you have to get the information to recognise that people have told you it's okay, and even mainstream television will encourage it and say it's okay. I mean, you know, there's porn in the kind of entry level on television, on your consumer programs every single day. It's encouraged. Your agony aunts will encourage it, but they don't realise that you're allowing literal parasites across the threshold. So you've got to get more information about it. It's not hard.
Yeah.
You know, an afternoon on the internet, go on YouTube and look at the TED Talks and look at the actual physiology and the psychology and the spiritual damage that porn does.
It does, yeah.
There's some good talks online that will tell you exactly what it is. Now, when I was coming away from it, I used to just talk to God and say, Is this okay? I genuinely didn't know. I wasn't sure. I knew I hid it, and I knew I was kind of quietly ashamed of it, and I knew it was something I did in the secret. But so I should have known, but I didn't have a wide enough consciousness to fully understand. I was sat in my garden one day after training, got a glass of fresh orange juice, and I finished it and put it on the table. And I said to God, "Is can you explain to me about porn? Is it wrong? Is it wrong?" I went in with a straight question, and as I asked him, this wasp came flying round, literally straight away, landed on the edge of my glass, and it started to take some of the residue of juice from the rim of the glass. I watched it. It took a bit, flew away. It stayed seconds. Watched it come back. This feels safe. Went into the glass a bit deeper. Took a bit more. There was more residue further down, so it took a bit more. Flew away. Come back, and it was like, very brave now, high on the juice, went down deeper. Eventually, it came back 4 times, and eventually it went to the bottom of the glass where there was a residue in the bottom, and it took its fill and couldn't get out. It was stuck in the bottom of the glass. Yeah. And that was God saying to me, you'll be tempted in by erotica, you know, by just by light stuff, but eventually you'll be in the deep stuff and you won't be able to get out. Yeah. I tipped the glass over and freed the wasp, and I said, thank you. And I still fell into the trap. It took me probably another 3 times before God gave me what they would call a divine shock. He gave me a vision. He gave me a vision of what we do to the soul when we indulge in any pornography. And bearing in mind, the Buddhists would consider anything outside of homeostasis, anything outside of stability and balance, to be pornography. So I realised that I realised when I had this vision that he showed me, it was a terrifying vision where I was shown what we do to the soul, and we think we can hide it, but it's all being observed. What we do to the soul, how we rape the soul when we indulge in negativity. So it fripped me, and I was never able to go back to it again. And if any temptations ever rose up, I would project forward and look at that image that I was shown, and I would go, I'm never going to go there again. But God, it was, just felt like I felt like an invasion of parasites went into my body. I was on my knees crying. It was so traumatic, and it was the only reason I got this divine shock was because I'd been shown it. I'd been shown the truth several times, and I didn't heed it. I just kept going back into it. I was a lazy doorman. I was a lazy, arrogant, drunk, irresponsible bouncer. I wasn't caring for the door. You know, I wasn't caring for the mind door. I wasn't caring for my soul. I was letting anything come across the threshold and take what it wanted and sell it on the dark web as a delicacy, you know. Yeah. So
that's
from that time on,
of the journey and path as well, isn't it? That's the reality of the struggle. How it's not easy. No, it's not. And you know, even with all will and intention, you're still gonna.
Well, listen.
Time and time again.
Christ called it the bitter cup, and he was so terrified of this path that he cried tears of blood. The Prophet Muhammad was so terrified when he first heard the voice, when he had the first awakening, that he ran from the mountain, terrified, and asked his wife to hide him under a coat. Arjuna Pandava, the prince of the world, was so terrified of this journey that he, in the middle of the battle, he said to his conscience, which was represented by Krishna, Lord Krishna, I don't want this. I want to be a renunciate. I want to run away and hide. I don't want my kingdom. I don't want it. And Lord Krishna had to do a spiritual discourse like we're doing now. We have a spiritual discourse, so we help people to clean their energy by giving them some inspiration. So he gave him a spiritual discourse that enabled him to see why he needed to remain in the middle of the battlefield. Now, Christ and Muhammad and Arjuna and people like Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, they didn't find this in a classroom. They didn't find it by reading another book. They found it by doing the work. All of the books and all of the study, all of that really helps. Everything helps. But we've still got to do the work. I know for me, I can't stand in front of somebody and talk to them if I'm not doing the work, because my conscience automatically says you're not doing that yourself. And occasionally, people I've been mentoring have saying, you're not doing that. And I've gone, you're right. Someone said to Zig Ziglar once. Yeah, someone said to Zig Ziglar once, a great motivational speaker, who was talking to this room of executives. Someone said to him, do you really believe this stuff? He goes, yeah, I live it. He says, so why are you 6 stone overweight? And he said, good question. I'll come back to you. And he went away and lost 6 stone of weight. And he said, listen to everything I'm saying, but don't look at me too closely because I'm still working on this myself. Yeah. So it's a tough path, and anybody that thinks it's not a tough path is in for a shock. And anybody that thinks they can flirt around the edges is in for a shock. Yeah. So it is not to scare people off. It's just to say, don't underestimate it. And you're dealing with souls. You're dealing with like I had a friend who had a great spiritual presence. And he'd been gifted a healing presence, but he kept trying to do it with people when he was pissed. And I'm going, you just can't do this. This is not even you. I don't even recognise you. This is not you. This is not you. When you're drunk, it's not you doing the work. You're not doing the work. That's something working through you and stealing the energy. And it would be like, I had another friend who would heal somebody and then try and have sex with them afterwards. And I'm going, it's just an abuse on top of an abuse. I said, you have to be so responsible. You have to be so responsible. You're dealing with souls. I've had 3 of my friends who have been in this world who have committed suicide because they weren't able to clear up what they were trying to help people, but they struggled to clear up what it was in them that was trying to prevent the journey. Now, the thing in them that was trying to prevent it, their dark shadow, that parasite, contains God. It's a cloud. It contains a phase of God, and our job is to convert that. But it's what Carl Jung said with individuation. That's the process of converting the dark into light. He said you have to be careful when the dark rises in order to individuate, because if you mistake it, if you engage it and identify with it, it will pull you back into the unconscious again. So this isn't to scare people off. I want to inspire people. I want to say that there is an abundance, there is treasures, there are jewels, they are everywhere, and they're all of the places that you're not looking.
There is so much.
Yeah, just look
magic.
At your own. Just take your clothes off and look in the mirror. Look at your own body. You can look at your own body, and it will tell you immediately whether or not you're converting your energy rightly. If you're still carrying too much weight, if you've still got bad habits. That's an energy. It's not a judgment. It's an energy that can be converted into light. In order to expand, we need to contract. And in order to contract, we need to expand. So when I say expand, I mean we expand in consciousness. When we expand in consciousness, it becomes impossible for the ego to exist with us. So as we expand in consciousness, through our meditation, through our study, through our work, the ego contracts. As we work on contracting the ego by taking away all its food, by taking away all of its delicacies, the ego contracts, and that effulgence automatically comes into the consciousness, and that expands. So that means you're walking through the world, seeing the world in a different way. You're not seeing the world the same as anybody else. Like a man that climbs Everest and comes down, he does not see the world in the same way again, ever. And that's the same with this. Once we convert this stuff, once we prove it's possible, I give up alcohol in just after 2000. My brother died from alcoholism, and I decided to give it up, mostly as an exercise in abstinence, to see whether I had the mental capacity, the mental power to give it up. And I just never went back to it. But when I contracted that part of me, there was a massive amount of energy in my alcohol consumption, because we'd been weaned on it since we were kids. You know, that was part of our culture. I've worked all my life for a drink. I've earned a drink. If I want to have a drink, I'll have a drink. Job done. I've earned a drink. My dad used to say, I've earned a bastard drink. Want a drink, I'll have a drink. You know. So when I gave that up, I lost probably 95% of my social circle, but man, my consciousness expanded. The doors that opened to me and the opportunities that opened to me, it was just incredible. And all of the big things, you know, like mastering the palate, you know, getting the food body right, practicing pranayama, getting the breath right, you know, becoming a unitary being, so I'm no longer got loads of conflicts in me. You know, just the difference in the world. You know, like we've just done this film called An Angel on Oxford Street. Man, the bliss I got from writing that, and I've just given you a copy of the book, and I can feel the spirit in the book, and it's an 8-minute film, but it contains the secret to perpetual motion. It contains the secret to the Holy Grail in that book. It's in there. Since I've written the book, which I would consider a concept nucleus. In other words, it's like a zip file that it's tiny, but it contains masses of information. Since I finished that film, I've expanded it, and I've written 800,000 words based on that book. The bliss I get from this download of information, and from dealing in the world, just from recognizing that when I serve people, when I'm kind to people, when I give people a gift, if I think kindly of somebody, if I just take a minute out for somebody, the bliss I feel, because I'm receiving love in order to give love, so I'm infused with love. So it's challenging, and I've not met anybody. All of my great heroes, you know, who were on the path, all said it is a difficult path. I'll tell you the story about when I went for my judo black belt. Judo, and I thought I'd be okay. I'm pretty strong. I'm training with Neil Adams, and I spoke to a friend of mine called Rick Young, and he's probably the greatest grappler I'd ever met. He was a world champion Brazilian jiu-jitsu player, and he said to me, "Oh, I did my black belt in judo, Geoff. It's hard." And I thought, right, if he says it's hard, I know it's hard. I'm not going, and it was hard. Spiritual path the same. When Gurdjieff said it's very hard, when Christ said it's very hard, it's a bitter cup. When Muhammad says I'm struggling with this, when Guru Nanak is praying to God 24 hours a day because it's a struggle, you know, when Arjuna Pandava is so afraid that he wants to run away from, he is the prince of the whole world, and he wants to run away from it. He doesn't want it. We've got to know it's difficult. But the moment we take the path, and the moment we work on the path, we will get assistance. Assistance will come to us like it spoke to you through intuition. Yeah. And it speaks to through intuition to give you work to do. Not to just go, yeah, I'm spiritual now. You know, I've got some beads and I've got a candle. Yeah. And I've got a dream catcher. You know, this is about doing the work. And I know I'm saying this to you as a person who I know does the work, because you know, we've had long conversations about your past and my past. And so we want to say to people, you can be free. You can be free of the suffering. Yeah. There is definitely a path. There is a cause to suffering, and there's a way of finding that cause, and there's a way of overcoming that cause. That's the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. There is suffering. There is a cause to suffering. There is an antidote to the cause, and we can enact that. We can become free. That's the study, and that can happen in an instant. But mostly it tends to happen by piecemeal, a little bit at a time. And when we're doing this kind of work, we're saying to people, I'm saying to people, there is freedom from a place of having escaped, not from a place of, you know, not from a. I'm not 6 stone overweight and addicted to porn and getting pissed every weekend and saying to them, yeah, you can escape. You know, I can take that stuff and leave it, knowing I can't. I'm saying it from a place of I've escaped that addiction to porn. I've escaped the addiction to alcohol. Yeah. I've escaped the parasite of insecurity and jealousy. I've escaped the mundane suffering. So it's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. If it's possible for me, and I am absolutely a very ordinary person, you know, I was like 32 before my first book was published. I was working in factories at the time. I was working as a nightclub bouncer, as you know. I suffered with depression all of my early life. I was abused when I was 11, which left me with a very unhealthy penchant for sexual pornography, and I self-abused physically and sexually for most of my life, not even aware that I was doing it. I've escaped that with the help of God, so I know it's possible. I am absolutely certain it's possible, but you need to do the work. So I'm here to say it's possible, but not from a perspective of I've read this somewhere and it's possible. I'm saying it from a perspective of it's possible because I've done it. I was a bouncer, so I know it's possible to do that. I've published a book. I know it's possible to do that. I've made a film. I know it's possible to do that. I've won a BAFTA. And the BAFTA, when you see the BAFTA, as I said to you at the time, very uncouthly, I used to carry the weight of this BAFTA in my testicles, in my dantian, in my tummy. It was the film I wrote about my brother's death, which confused me, which angered me, which left me perplexed and left me with all sorts of unstable energy. So I wrote a film about it to understand it, and I converted the film into a BAFTA. And that BAFTA is a key. Yeah. I'm able to use that key to go into a prison and talk to people who think there is no escape. I'm able to talk to people in all sorts of institutions and say it's possible, and I let them feel it. And they're not feeling an egoic trophy. They're feeling the conversion. They're feeling the conversion of dark into light. And here's an interesting thing. When you look at the back of the BAFTA mask, the sculptor has put an enneagram of a nucleus with all the particles floating around it, and then an eye into the BAFTA. So basically, when we unify ourselves, we open the all-seeing eye. Yeah. So it's the message that me and you are trying to say to people is it's possible, but we have to. I remind myself every day. I need to make sure that I'm living that. My conscience kicks me up the arse if I don't, if I'm not living it. But I need to make sure I'm living it. I need to make sure I'm doing it. So that impeccability is the thing I'm getting most in my life at the moment. Be impeccable. There's a story I think I told you, Sarah, about a guy. He's newly awakened spiritually, and he's running through the airport, and he's got to get to a plane. And he's got to get this plane for an important meeting. It's a vital meeting, the most important meeting of his life. But he's running through the terminal to get to the plane. And as he's running, he takes a chewing gum out of his pocket and he unwraps it and he puts it in his mouth. And as he runs past the bin, he throws it at the bin and carries on running. Now, straight away, we know he's out of balance because he's late for the plane. He shouldn't be late. But as he throws the paper, it hits the lip of the bin and falls on the floor. He's 100 yards up through the terminal before he stops and goes, "I've got to go and put that in the bin." And he goes back and he picks it up and he puts it in the bin and he misses his plane. And years later, he's telling this story and he can't even remember what the meeting was, even though his ego was saying, it's a really important meeting. It's a vital meeting. That's impeccability. We've got to live impeccably. We don't speed when we're driving. There are forces around us that are actively trying to prevent us from becoming enlightened. There are forces that feed off us that are actively trying to stop us from becoming enlightened. Now, those forces, you could call those forces your enemy, but for me, they're my friend. They keep me in the centre. If I fall out of alignment, they sting me. There's God's, Al-Ghazali said they were God's master swordsmen come to show us how to use our weapons. So those forces are there to protect us, and they're also there to be converted if they come too close. So if we're not impeccable, they will tell us very quickly. And it's this spiritual shock is very painful, because it's saying, look, you are bringing in spirit, you are conserving spirit, you are training spirit, and you are infusing spirit into the world for me. This is pure spirit. So these are my children. These are actual living thought forms. And if you're going to abuse them, I'm going to shock you to show you that you're doing that. Because every time you abuse them, you abuse yourself. Yeah. And you cut off your connection to God. So these divine shocks come in order to show us when we're slightly or off the path. I mean, I've been in rooms when I've let my mind fall out of alignment, and I've gone to pick a glass up and the glass has shattered before I've touched it. Because I've let my mind drift towards a dark area. Mm-hmm. Maybe maybe I've locked onto an hourglass for too long. Maybe I've locked onto a female form, and my eyes have stayed there, and my thoughts are starting to betray me. Or maybe I'm thinking about a vengeance or something angry, and I've gone to pick a glass up and the glass has shattered. And I said, I get the message, thank you.
And we get signs all the time. I think everybody does get the signs, the messages. It's just awareness and noticing. A lot of people kind of ignore the intuition and the good feelings and the message. Everyone is receiving all the time.
Yeah. But they're receiving, and it's coming in through the doorway of the mind, and there's two demons standing outside that open doorway, and as soon as it comes through, they're collecting it, and then they're misusing it, and they're using it in their own way. It's being taken off us. So that's what we need to be aware of. And if it sounds complicated, just imagine the moment you sit and gossip about somebody outside Costa, your divine energy has been stolen. Mm-hmm. The moment you think an unkind thought about somebody, your energy has been stolen. The moment you say an unkind thing about somebody, the moment you indulge in something that is immoral or illicit, if you're fiddling your tax, even if it's just for 5 pence, if you're fiddling your expenses, if your integrity isn't there in a business transaction, this energy is being brought into this escrow account, and some of it's being siphoned off. And this force that gives you the energy will go, this person can't be trusted with this energy, so we're going to just give them enough energy to animate their life. Mm-hmm. They're not ready for more. So if we want more, we go, I'm going to clean this act up.
Absolutely.
And that's the work.
And I think that is the biggest thing that's coming through today. So we didn't really know what was going to come through today.
No.
But it is important. It's something daily I'm very mindful of. When you walk, you've got everything has to be in alignment.
Yeah.
And yes, sometimes we are going to get pulled out, but there's catching it, bringing it back in. But for people who are still in pockets of those negative traps, and they're all out there, we're all going to fall into them at some point.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it. It's just the way things are. But navigating yourself up and out.
Yeah.
Because the other person really who's going to either, the other person who's going to benefit from going within every single day and gently starting to draw in practices to evolve, to heal, to become more aware, more connected, cleaner, is yourself.
Yeah.
Each and every time. And the benefits from that and encouraging people is okay. Like you always said to me, be kind to yourself, Sarah. Be kind to yourself, because you're still going to hit all those markers when I realise now, my drinking isn't serving me. Actually, in any way, shape or form, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, it's not.
Yeah.
Go and do lines of coke and then go and teach in the gym.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Not even you turning up.
Carrying around your traumas, having these emotional imbalances. They're all these things can be transmuted.
Yeah.
Turned around.
Yeah. They all contain God.
Cleaned out.
They all contain light.
You can get to a place in yourself where you have more inner peace.
Yeah.
You are more guided by your inner tuition. that you know, the feeling that comes from being respectful and kind to yourself daily is magic. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a guiding force for me. And so we're here to encourage and inspire, but also being honest, it's not easy road. You're going to come across every shadow, every voice that's within you.
They're living in you.
Absolutely, and that's what we mean by parasites.
Yeah,
People
they're
go,
not.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
It's like it's a negative thought form. Eckhart Tolle would call it a pain body. You could call it a parasite. You could call it a virus.
Demon.
You know, it doesn't really matter what you call it, but it's a semi-autonomous thought form. And if you don't want it in you, stop feeding it.
Yeah.
You know,
I go in the mirror.
Yeah.
Mirror works, you know, all these little practices, and I'm always promoting them. But even mirror work every day, you look in your eyes, you just encourage and love and thank yourself and tell yourself you've got this, you know. And even on your darkest hours, like this year, I lost my dad, and I woke up the next morning, and my heart was just, it was painful. It was in the pain. It's like, no, sir, you get up. You go to the window, you open your curtains, and you say thank you, you know. And those are the times when you're on your knees, when you've done that thing that makes you feel.
So then when you're in front of a kid that's struggling, and going, you don't understand, I've lost my dad. You don't understand, I've got this problem with drink. You don't understand, I've got this. You go, you know, I do understand, because I've gone through that. I do understand. Yeah. I remember a friend of mine I was trying to help said to me, he'd had a post-traumatic stress, and he triggered like he became like a schizophrenic, and he was under medication. And I was trying to say to him, look, I know you're in a dark place, but I'm saying that you can escape this. He said, oh, what? So you're telling me that you can cure schizophrenia? I said, I don't cure anything. The cure comes and the healing comes and the healing it just works through you. I said, but I've had a kid in my class who was healed of schizophrenia. Yes, it's possible. I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen every ailment, because all of these illnesses are made of atoms, and they all contain a phase of God. We just need to find a way to release it. Yeah. But we have to help ourselves. So, like I always say to people, I'm not worried about what you eat. I'm not worried about what you drink. I'm worried about what you're feeding. So if you want to know what you're feeding, stop eating the shit. Stop drinking the rubbish, and see what rises, because it will rise and go, where's my food? We had an agreement. I'll stay hidden if you don't feed me. So find out what it is you're feeding. Start off, you know, even if it's just
starving it, and
starve it. Yeah, even if it's just, even if you just find yourself gossiping, which is, people don't think it's a big thing, but it's a character assassination. In Judaism, they consider it to be an act of murder, because you're taking this pure spirit and you're using it in a dark manner to harm, because thought forms harm. So
it's an energy force in itself.
Yeah. Well, Kota Dharmagaku from Aikido is the use of sound. It's the use of magic sound, or Heka from the pyramids. It's the use of sound. But we want to use sound in a beautiful way. I've seen sound heal people. Yeah. I've seen illnesses lift from people, and depressions lift from people just with the use of sound. And once that sound goes out there, if we've been privileged to use that sound, this sound doesn't just stay here. Even if we weren't filming this, just me using this sound to you, or just me putting this sound into the air, is going to go out there and it's going to live. So if sound creates our reality, which it does, then make sure that you're not using rubbish sound, because otherwise you're just going to keep creating monsters in your life, forgetting you've created them, and then trying to find remedies and fixes for the very monsters you've created and forgotten. So sound is important. So if you want something to start on today, start working on getting your palate right, look at your habits, and start being careful of what you sound. But do you remember Buckminster Fuller? This is a guy that had a breakdown when he was 40, had a massive breakdown. His daughter died, and he wrongly blamed himself. And after he had this breakdown, he had this moment of clarity where he realised the power of sound. And he said he didn't speak for a year. He said, I didn't dare speak until I knew exactly what I was speaking about, because I did not want to harm anybody with my sound. Yeah. So we've got to be careful with our sound. We've got to be loving with our sound. We've got the chance every day in this causal reality to create wonders with our sound. Yeah. And maybe whether that sound is us talking now, whether it's subvocal, if I write a book, that is just sound imprinted in ink. So when you open the book and read it, you subvocally bring it back to life again. So it's a very exciting time to be alive. It's a very exciting time to be kind. And as I always say to my friend Debs, you know, if you can't be nice, at least be neutral.
Yeah. 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 Thank you, Geoff. I really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure.
I absolutely love you.
No.
I just, you know, I say to people all the time, you know, I wouldn't be really doing the work that I'm doing and where I'm at now if it weren't for you coming into my world at the time you did, because you've been a key instrument of my healing journey.
No, thank you.
And I'm just...
I just want, all I want to do with you is just encourage impeccability, because where you've come from and where I've come from, and again, you know, we've come from very dark places, which means you have massive potential for spiritual growth, massive potential. The people that have lived in the worst places, in the darkest places, have the most potential because they've got all that cloud to convert. So I want to encourage impeccability, so that if you're just in a room with people, if you're just, even if they don't know you, people are affected by your presence because that spirit's coming through you. And if you speak, they're affected even more. And if you do something for them, they're affected even more. So you should be able to sit in a cafe and be anonymous, and that cafe flourish and expand and become more profitable, and the people in there more aspirational and more inspired just because you're there, even if they don't know who you are, even if you just go in and sit and have a coffee. Your presence, if you get yourself spiritually aligned, especially somebody like you, especially somebody like me, or somebody out there who's been in a dark past, or who is currently in a dark past, you have more potential for spiritual growth than somebody that's never done anything wrong. That's one of the tenets of Judaism. The people that have sinned the worst are the people that have the highest potential, because they have so much. I mean, people ask why I'm so prolific. I had so much darkness to convert. I've written 50, 60 books or something, and I don't know how many films and plays and articles and talks. That's because I've taken this reservoir of dark energy, and with the help of the spirits around me, converted it into light. And when I say spirit, I know people go, spirit, you know, like it's socks and sandals, but they're real, very real presences. Very real presences around me. And I'm very grateful. I feel them here today. I'm very grateful that they guide me and they keep me aligned, because I can't do anything without them.
Absolutely. And, you know, and when the blessings that come with that awareness and that connection and the respect, that when you give that energy and those ancestral spirits and your guides and, you know, all that beautiful, strong energy, the time, you know, the love, the respect, and the deep, deep gratitude. Gratitude's a really important frequency for me.
Do you know what the greatest gratitude is? Do the work.
Yeah.
So if I ask you now, and I ask the people watching this, when can you start being impeccable? When can you start being impeccable? When can you start?
Now.
Now. Absolutely. That's the right answer.
Yeah.
Me too.
And it's okay if you kind of trip up, you know, when you're first starting. People think, they get overwhelmed, like, oh, they're so there.
Yeah.
And I'm here. It's okay. It's steps.
Just takes time. Just
we're
start,
still stepping. We're still stepping, but we get where you're at.
Every time you trip up, you see the hurdle. Next time, maybe next time or the time after, maybe you'll trip 10 times before you finally go, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
And the main thing is that you're seeing it. It's when you're tripping and not seeing it.
Yeah.
Once you start seeing it, you can start working on it.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
So be impeccable.
And understanding heart.
Yeah.
You were saying about that last time we met, the understanding heart. And that's something I've been sharing with people, you know, about a situation they're stuck with and they're sitting there battling and they're... And for myself as well, with certain situations that have been very close. No, Sarah, the understanding heart. You just need to understand it. You don't need to judge it. You can't fix it. Stop trying to fix people.
Yeah.
That's something I had to learn to stop doing as well. Just just see it, understand it, and allow it to breathe.
Yeah.
And allow it to just bring it some love and light and understand. That's all it needs.
Just put the energy out there and it'll do the work for it. Our job is to put the energy out there, and the energy will work with people, and it'll work in them, and it'll tell them what to do.
I used to be so hard on myself.
Yeah.
Got to be better. Got to do better. I've got to grow. Got to be like this. I need to give more. But actually, when I actually started to surrender and breathe and relax.
Yeah, you're a beautiful kid.
And just things
You're a beautiful
naturally
soul.
started to
Let it work
shift
with you. Let it
and
talk to you.
transmute. Anyway, it's like, Sarah, just relax, will you?
We've called in this spirit to help us, and then we're standing over his shoulder. We're second guessing it. What are you doing? I'll do that. It's like we call down this divine sat nav, and then we try and find our way ourselves. So the main thing for me is take the instruction. The people that take the instruction and look in the mirror and go, okay, I'm going to start today. The people that take the instruction, the people that ascend the quickest. Yeah. So just take the instruction.
Be you. Be you. Be authentic. You know, clear away all these things, and then there you are. There you are.
It's all there.
And what's there?
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
Joy. Yeah. Humour. Laughter.
But what we're doing
music,
now, is love, because love is a moving force. So if you have knowledge, and the universe expands with the increase of knowledge and love, that's how it becomes more unified and more organised, and it develops this. It creates this negentropy, this greater order. Love is actuated when we move knowledge. So when I'm talking to you, or we're talking to people that are watching this, if there are kids watching this now, we're talking to them. This is the movement of knowledge. This is love. This helps people to evolve. It helps us to evolve, helps the universe to evolve. So love is not a static thing. Love is a moving force. It moves when you are kind. So that's why St. Paul says that of all of the virtues, charity is the greatest. Charity, he used charity in the sense of love, and charity is a moving thing. It isn't just something that we write at the end of a birthday card. You know, love is something we do when we are kind to people, and when we pass on knowledge to people selflessly with no agenda. That is the movement of love, and that's the increase of love. I think that'd be a great place to stop you. Is that okay?
I think we could go on all day though, couldn't we,
but
really?
I said to you, didn't I? I said to you, you said to me, what will we talk about? I said, when have we ever got together and had trouble finding something to talk about?
I know. But thank you, Geoff. I appreciate it's just, there's no words. You feel it.
Thank you, Bab.
Would you come back again at some point?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So thank you, and thank you for watching. Appreciate you.